Hey everyone, I just wanted to make a quick video on why self-custody matters, and I'm going to use current events to explain it. So, you had a subreddit called Wall Street Bets decide pretty much collectively that they were going to destroy a hedge fund that was putting itself in a vulnerable position and being brazen about its destruction of a soon-to-be dead company called GameStop. It's fair enough. I mean, they're the undertakers of the financial world. These people that like to polish off dying companies by shorting their stock into the ground. Now, I don't know who's watching this, but I'll explain what a short is quickly. This has been done to death lately, but a short is when you borrow stock you don't own, you sell it, and then you buy it back when it goes down in price, and then you make a profit based on that. But what happens is, if the stock goes up after you've done that, then you can get fucked really bad, much worse than if you if you buy a stock and it goes down, you're going to lose your initial investment. Worst case, if you short a stock and it goes up, your potential loss is pretty much infinite until you decide to buy back the stock you lost, or the stock that you're required to eventually buy, given that you've already sold it and borrowed it. You need to give it back to the person you borrowed it from, and you have to buy it at whatever price the market's at. So if it's gone up from what you sold it at when you first borrowed it, then you owe more money than you're going to need to find more money than you made from your initial short sell. Okay, so that's all well and good, but the point is, uh, what they've done somehow, and I mean, somehow they've managed to short more than 100% of the available stock, which sounds like fraud, and no one's really sure how this has happened, but whatever. These guys figured it out on Wall Street Bets on the subreddit, and were like, well, they're fucked. They're absolutely fucked. All we need to do is buy a bit of this stock, and then they're not going to be able to cover their shorts, or whatever the term is. They're going to be absolutely screwed. So congrats, they bankrupted the hedge fund. Hilarious. And it's David taking down Goliath. And I'm not going to say that short selling's wrong and all that stuff. Like, I mean, it's debatable, and that's not the point of this video. I really want to get into why this it means everyone needs to wake up and have their own bitcoins under their own custody. That's what I'm trying to get to with this video, and I'm using this I'm looking at it through the lens of what's happened today, because it just demonstrates how rigged our system is and how the incumbent elite will do anything to prevent you from gaining any power or self-sovereignty through any means necessary, and they will do it brazenly with gloves off. And in this case, when this was happening, Robinhood, the app that plebs like us used to trade on, that was what people were predominantly using to buy this stock and screw over this hedge fund. And they, along with pretty much every other stock exchange, froze trading on this thing to stop the price from going any higher, made some users, forced them to sell their stock to help the price go down, and removed the buy button and allowed the sell button to remain. And they threw out some horse shit about, oh, we need to protect people from volatility and all this stuff. But what they were brazenly doing was saying a hedge fund's going down. The hedge fund, by the way, it was bailed out by Citadel, who owned the hedge fund, and Robinhood, the main app people were using. Robinhood, whose premise was plebs should be able to trade just like these Wall Street guys. That was their whole premise. They have just demonstrated to the world that they will do the exact opposite of that and say, look, the plebs just took down, in a totally fair fashion, by the way, our hedge fund. We need to bail the hedge fund out. Fuck the plebs. So they've enforced that everyone buying into this thing, YOLOing into GME, GameStop, just to screw over the hedge fund, is unable to keep the price rallying and rallying like it deserves to. Not because it's a good company, by the way, but just because, I mean, GameStop is a dead, dying business. It is the Blockbuster of video games. People don't need brick and mortar stores for video games anymore, and then COVID comes along, and you genuinely are fair if you see the whole thing as that industry is dead and that company is dying. But if everyone decides buying stock in that company is a good way to screw over a hedge fund, and everyone hates hedge funds, I don't. I think it's fair enough. If you want to be a hedge fund, go ahead. But you're gambling when you're a hedge fund, and if you lose because everyone decides they hate you and wants to buy stock to fuck you over, that's the game, and you just lost the game. You don't get to then go crying to the SEC and stock exchanges and ask them to freeze trading and force everyone to sell because we made a bet and now we're losing our bet and we need you to make it so that we win our bet again. And all the exchanges, just even one named Robinhood, goes, don't worry, we'll sort it out. And our reputation is dead and no one's going to use our platform again, but it doesn't matter because we're owned by Citadel, who also own the hedge fund that have just gone bankrupt. So we'll sort it out. Whatever. Like, you know, there's going to be real bad legal consequences for this because what they're doing is completely illegal. This is market manipulation beyond a shadow of a doubt, and there will actually probably end up being someone going to jail for this. Like, usually these financial criminals get away with murder, but this is just, they've pissed off. I can't see someone not going to jail for this. But nonetheless, it shows the fact that when you short the financial system, which is ironically what they're doing by buying a stock that the financial system was short, then when you make these people lose money, they will do anything to maintain their position, and they don't care what it looks like. They don't care if it looks like brazen crime and obvious rigging. I mean, there's nothing capitalist about this. This is complete cronyism. We are going to save our own asses. We are going to pretend that markets aren't what they are. These are not free markets. We are shorting something into the ground, which is an incredibly risky thing to do in theory, but we're not really taking any risk because every time the market moves in the opposite direction to what we want it to, we're going to just call all our friends that run exchanges and say, can you stop them from trading, please? And what's ultimately the problem here for the users of Robinhood is that when you own stock, you don't control the stock. The exchange does, or the broker does, and they can freeze it and they can force you to even sell it if they want. This is true of Bitcoin too. If you leave your Bitcoin in exchanges, Bitcoin is the ultimate short against everything fucked up in the world. How you clean the world of all the corruption that goes on in it at the moment is you remove the ability of a government to print money whenever it likes, to decide what inflation rates are, and to decide where the money they print goes, and to control your ability to use your money through third parties such as banks, who are required to comply with all of the immoral shit they force them to comply with. When you take money out of that system, you remove all of their control and all of their ability to be useful to themselves with their own corruption. Suddenly, they can be as corrupt as they like, but they have no power. And I've never been able to break this down succinctly enough, and I don't want to do it in this video, but war becomes impossible if a government is unable to print money to finance it. When a government prints money, it's stealing from anyone that holds that currency, but it does it in a way that people don't notice. When governments have to overtly steal from you by freezing your bank accounts and freezing your exchanges, that's when people get pissed off. And they're doing this all the time anyway, it's just no one notices. When they have to do it overtly, suddenly the situation becomes something that can't last anymore. That's what they've done today. They've said, your money isn't your own. Your stocks aren't your own. You're playing a game, you've seen the rules, and you've gone, oh, these are the rules of short selling. These are the rules of what happens if you get short squeezed. These are the rules of... Everyone is finding out that when you try and play these people at their own game, they will fucking move goalposts. They will move everything around and say, that's not really the rules. And by the way, anyone that bought that stock is a racist. And I've seen Vice print that, I've seen New York Times print that, and I've seen Financial Times print that today. They are so shameless in their labeling of people that they don't like, who use capitalism as it's perfectly fine to use, but in a way that negatively impacts someone at the high end of this elite club. They're just throwing all this bullshit out there like, oh, Wall Street Bets is racist. You know, what the fuck are you talking about? It's an open forum on Reddit for people to talk about stocks. There's nothing white supremacist about it. They're just throwing that out there like, oh, it's more populism, it's more Trump. This is bullshit. It's a fucking joke, and it's hilarious to watch. But the lesson that people need to take from today, that sadly might be might be lost on a lot of people, is that until you short the entire system by buying Bitcoin, and you accept the fact that if those Bitcoin aren't under your actual direct control, you're still part of the system and you can still get fucked over. I tell people all the time, you've bought your Bitcoin, but you don't own any Bitcoin until you have your wallet and your keys and your 24 words and your Bitcoin under your control in that regard. If they're sitting on an exchange, what's going to happen when Bitcoin finally... Well, it's in the process of doing this already, but Bitcoin is so disruptive. It's a billion times more disruptive than what these Wall Street bets guys did today. What they did today was have a minor win against a hedge fund. That hedge fund is now going to, the result of which is there's now going to be a big change in legislation. There's going to be a bunch of mechanisms put in place to prevent that from happening again. They will get back the money they lost. They will outlaw the kind of behavior we've seen today. They will rewrite laws. They will do what they've got to do to stop it from happening. They will ultimately just benefit from it. And it will be like Occupy Wall Street all over again. An effective tactic for a short time that eventually they figure out how to circumvent, make money out of, and completely neutralize and castrate, essentially. It becomes a waste of time. And my friend Tom Astrolight, who I've had on this channel before, wrote a fantastic article on this today that I will link in the description. And what he's commented on is that people get tired and they burn out and they get these small wins against the corrupt establishment, but they don't last. And the establishment is able to outlast you with that stuff. It has a lot more power. And what you need when you're taking on something like this is something that has the qualities Bitcoin has, which in one word is just relentless. Bitcoin is there 24 hours a day, constantly sucking financial energy out of the political establishment. And it does it so relentlessly, and it resists attack in ways that don't neuter it or castrate it. They strengthen it due to Bitcoin's anti-fragile qualities. Bitcoin is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and its weak point is the exchanges, as it always has been. There's many weak points in Bitcoin because nothing's perfect, but the exchanges are where the authorities are going to come when Bitcoin really starts eating their lunch. It's still under $1 trillion market cap. Bitcoin is a blip on the horizon still. That's why it's so good to buy it now, but nonetheless, I'm not trying to give financial advice here. What I'm saying is, buy Bitcoin. Buy it for the right reasons, which is, I want an effective tool to end the corruption and the coercion and the cronyism and the just utter immorality that goes on around me. I spent my whole life looking for that, and Bitcoin was the first time I found a way of doing it something effective. Occupy Wall Street was only a short-lived tactic that didn't last for very long, and it was for people like me who are pissed off with banks. And Bitcoin came along around the same time, and it was a positive change. It was, we can't fight them at their own game because they will change the rules of the game every time we start winning. Bitcoin is saying, we are not playing your game anymore. We are inventing a new financial system that you can't control, and we are leaving your system. Once your Bitcoins are in your control, you can transact with anyone else on the planet without a centralized third party, which means you can escape. And as long as you can have the internet somehow, I mean, that's not even strictly necessary, but on a practical level it is. As long as you have the internet, you can have your own free economy that the government has nothing to do with and can never find out about. So the exit signs are there. These people are so close. They're buying this stock. They're buying it out of spite, but a good kind of spite that I will defend. They're saying, I don't care if I buy a GameStop for $350 for a share. GameStop for $350 a share. I don't care if I lose it. I'm going to buy one stock because that's a stock that now isn't available to them that they need to buy to cover their short. Hilarious. So they're doing it for the reasons that I bought Bitcoin and for the reasons that you should buy Bitcoin. Because if you do that, you will ride this thing out to the end, and that is how you end up in a very good situation financially, because that's how you go down the rabbit hole, and that's just served as a motivation for me. And I've found that everyone that's like, "Ooh, it's going up a lot, I want to buy it," like, that's just not the right reason to be involved in Bitcoin. Yes, it's deflationary, and yes, it's going to make a mockery of government currency. I mean, it's going to, I say. It's $33,000 for one of these Bitcoins now. It's already made dollars look foolish and expose them for what they are, which is worthless pieces of paper that we're hallucinating have some sort of scarcity and value, and we've been told is... I mean, the whole system is just a mirage and a lie, and it's collapsing, and everyone wants to attack it because fuck it, it's fun. But I say to these people, get serious. If you want to get outside this system, if you want to attack the system, don't fight the system within its own parameters and rules, because those can just get changed on you all the time. You can't, if the rules are, I'm going to buy a stock, and a company that's short that stock is now going to be forced to pay more for that stock because the price went up because I bought some. Yay, I beat a hedge fund. You've seen what they will do. They will freeze every exchange in North America. They will force you to sell. They will send you a message telling you it's for your own damn good and that you're a white supremacist. That's what they'll fucking do to you if you try and play them at their own game. They will not have it. And the one thing they can't deal with is if you go, that's it, I'm taking my government stimulus check and I'm buying Bitcoin with it and I'm withdrawing it from the exchange and I'm holding it on my wallet. They are fucked when people start doing that. And it takes a bit of vision to understand how you're undermining their power when you do that, but you are. And every time Bitcoin's price continues to go up, as it has been doing, it goes up roughly 200% a year, according to Michael Saylor's calculations, which sounds about right. And that's a combination of a few shitty years like 2014 and 2018 and a few unbelievable years where it goes up thousands of percent like 2013 and 2017. So, I mean, when you buy Bitcoin, you basically remove, I've said it already in this video, but I'm going to repeat it. When governments can't print money anymore, they can't steal from you in this stealthy manner that they usually like to do via inflation and via the Cantillon effect, which is new money is the older money is, the less valuable it gets, as in a specific unit of that money. So if you print $1 million, the person you give it to first has $1 million worth of purchasing power, and all of the ways in which they spend that money, the people that receive it from them don't collectively have $1 million. They have 900,000 or something, because inflation happens because there's now new money around. And the last people, the plebs, who are the final people to see newly printed money, now have barely any have barely any purchasing power with it, and in the meantime have had their wages, which haven't gone up, be worth less as well in terms of purchasing power. So they constantly see a decrease in their ability to live off of what they have. And it's only through the miracle of technology that people are able to live in such a world that where we're being robbed so brazenly. And sorry to keep using that word brazen. I just can't believe the naked behavior of all this. I don't know if maybe you're like me or maybe you're not. I've always looked at these third world countries, and I've grown up in the UK and Europe, and I've always felt like what we do here in the West is legitimate. Like our elections are real. Our health care practitioners are the best we can have, and our teachers are, they're not just our media is not just corporate bootlicking. And I've always kind of felt this, and I just feel like such a fool. And now I'm sitting here watching Alex Jones and going, this is so much more reliable than the bullshit I'm seeing on everything else. I'm looking at all these old institutions, these greatly respected institutions like the New York Times and the Financial Times. I mean, these are such serious organs, and they're sitting there saying people are buying a stock. They're all racist. Obviously, they shouldn't be buying this. It's racist. Let's shut down the subreddit. and they churn it out in like 10 minutes. No one even, like, it's just rubber stamped. Like, does it fit the ideology and the agenda? Boom, go. A bunch of people died from coronavirus. Stamp, go. Actually, they were in a bus crash, and what? Like, everything is just. Sorry, that's not the most intelligent way to put this, but these institutions, these respectable institutions, they're just complete bootlickers now. Biden's already got new troops on the way to Iraq. He's a complete return to establishment American politics, start wars, kill people, make loads of money from the weapons and arms industry. And no one gives a fuck. None of these moralizing holier-than-thou fucks on CNN and on CNBC and MSNBC and all of these, they all sit there and preach all day about racism's bad and this is bad and someone misgendered someone and it's bad and Trump is so divisive and bad, and they don't give a fuck. It's like there's people literally dropping bombs on people right now because someone makes a profit every time a bomb is dropped. And that's your new hero. He's your new guy with the arms reaching out to embrace America. This is like, I've never seen anything like this. And to circle back to what I was saying about my disillusionment with thinking I live in a sort of Western liberal democracy where, like, it's not a joke. It's not Uganda. Like, our elections are real and our healthcare isn't completely just decided by politicians. Like, I mean, COVID is another example. You've got a drug that works that's completely non-controversial called hydroxychloroquine, and because Trump came out in favor of it, they went on a massive attack campaign against it, discrediting a decades-old drug that's been used safely for that entire time. We know what it does. We know it helps with COVID. Doctors are now not even allowed to prescribe it because through pressure from insurance companies and political pressure on them, they're not allowed to use it. Instead, they're going to use an insane vaccine, which they've told us doesn't fucking work, and that you're not allowed to stop wearing a mask or adhering to any of the restrictions, but get it anyway, even though it's a brand new type of vaccine, which we know wasn't tested for very long at all, to cure something which is a variant of the common cold, which we know can't really be vaccinated, for something which keeps mutating as well, by the way. And I'm young, so I have zero risk of dying from this fucking thing. But I'm going to take this experimental, untested, new type of vaccine that I've been told to my face by the people making it doesn't work, who are also legally completely not liable for anything that happens. So if I drop dead straight after I take it, Pfizer or Moderna they're not on the hook whatsoever. This is a clown planet I'm living on now. Like, I'm sorry to go so off topic, but I cannot believe what the fuck. I cannot believe this. I'm so disillusioned. And I have people around me who are like, yeah, well, wait, how's it feel? You're awake finally. Like, there are people that have been hip to this forever. And like people that, like anyone I know that comes from a hardcore, like what I would laugh at in my past, these Christian conservative backgrounds that we mock, anyone that comes from a big city and, is middle class in the West, like the coastal communities in America, but also, big cities in Europe, we have this attitude of like, oh, we're so wonderful and tolerant and advanced and atheist and, like transgender and just like, or not, at least non-cisgendered, I should say. Like, all of this total dehumanizing, demoralizing shit that attacks us at all our fundamental, like, all the fundamental moral principles of it all. And, and to really get on a sidetrack, it's a fish without water. We've given up God. We've given up basic notions of reality, like there are men and there are women and maybe there's a hermaphrodite or two, but that's like they've attacked all of that at the very basic level, and and they're telling you black is white and up is down, and like you can't use a drug that we know works, that we also know is safe and is harmless, and we are violating all of the doctor-patient like privilege of. It's up to a doctor to decide what you're prescribed, not the insurance company, and definitely not Joe Biden. But nonetheless, we're not going to take this drug that we know works. We're going to discredit it with a massive WHO trial, World Health Organization, that's going to be fraudulently run. We're going to publish it. Mainstream media is going to say, hydroxychloroquine's dangerous because of this study, and the study gets retracted because it was fraudulent, and mainstream media never corrects themselves. So the impression is hydroxychloroquine's dangerous, and Donald Trump likes it, and he's a Nazi, so therefore it's definitely bad, and only racists will take hydroxychloroquine, and only racists fuck up hedge funds by screwing them over when they're over leveraged to the short side, and only racists will use Telegram and Signal. If you're getting kicked off big tech, if your LinkedIn account is closed, I mean, let's just assume you were a racist white supremacist at this point. It's gotten to the point where people will come back and say, "I'm not taking the vaccine." "Oh, you're an anti-vaxxer." "I'm a doctor, actually. I'm just not going to take the vaccine because it doesn't meet any of the requirements vaccines are supposed to meet. I'm not an anti-vaxxer." Or, "Okay, I just got kicked off a platform for being a white supremacist, blah, blah, blah. I was an anonymous avatar. I'm a black woman." Okay, I'm not a fucking white supremacist. I'm not a Trump's, I said something wrong. I broke one of the rules of this stupid agenda. I mean, okay, now I'm definitely rambling, but my point was, when you see this, everyone's different. I guess they call it the red pill. Now I have my moment where I'm looking at the world and I'm saying, this is a joke. It's completely disconnected. They're calling everything, they called Wall Street bets, they called what they did financial populism. And fair enough, even if I can look at this all dispassionately and not pick a side, populism is expanding because of the absurdity that's going on around us. Populism's president was Trump. Now, the fact that populism has grown since Trump was first elected and is now greater, and the election was completely, obviously fucking rigged. These people that are so present, that are being called white supremacists, they have no outlet now, and they're being banned off of all the big tech platforms, and even people are getting siloed with them, like Wall Street bets. Who knows what those guys' political affiliations are? And there's no reason to think they're all Trump supporters. But they've now had the big tech come down and censor them as well. So they are now, where do we go? Everyone is eventually going to be pushed towards freedom because there's just too much strangulation and control by people that are just laughably, they are endorsing the most. I just can't believe what I'm watching, guys. And I'm sorry, I'm not so sorry about the people that are still sitting there thinking Biden's going to save the world and we just toppled a dictator. I'm sorry. I'm prepared to be quite dismissive of your naivety at this point. If you're still thinking that, you really need to wake up at this point. I have people in my family that still think this, and they're terrified of COVID. And thank God we got rid of Trump, and now all I need to do is take the vaccine, and everything's going back to normal. There are people like this around me, and I'm sorry, I can't really deal with you anymore. You're so blind to what's being done to you, and how you're being forced to live your life with no dignity, and you're not really, you don't have the self-respect to understand how dehumanizing what's being done to us is. And nonetheless, I'm saying not everyone goes through the process I've gone through, and there are people that have been awake to this their whole lives, and they are people that grew up in Christian conservative backgrounds who've been mocked relentlessly by their betters forever. And mainstream media and TV, for example, has done nothing but shit on them and their beliefs forever, and they're used to being where they are. I'm not used to being here at all. So for me, I'm just sort of sitting there aghast and looking at everything and going, what the fuck is going on here? And what I'm seeing firstly is that these guys are flirting. The Wall Street bets guys are flirting with real escape here. And what they're doing is they keep accidentally remaining inside this system of control and dehumanization. And as a result, they keep having the rug pulled out from under their feet. Every time they get a little win and a spike of happiness, it gets turned around and dumped on them. And it's sad to watch. And it happened to me for years, because you don't want to watch injustice and evil prevail in the world, and you want to do what you can do against it, but you don't want to. It's not, if you can't beat them, join them, or join them and maintain heart and change it from within. You're not going to do that. No one has ever gone into politics and managed to do, like, I mean, you can hold it if you're successful in another realm, like, as far as it, like, okay, fine, everyone unsubscribe now. Trump was a fantastic president in so many regards, because it's the first time we haven't had a new war started in my entire lifetime of American presidents, and way before that, way back to Reagan, and it's so, and then all of the rejection of the toxic and evil identity politics, which is just race baiting and hatred, and this constant forcing of, like, there is racism, systemic racism. It's so bad. If you're a minority, your police are going to do this to you. You cannot walk down the street. You will be killed by police if you are. All of this hateful, fear-driven, inaccurate nonsense that you're not allowed to question, and it's all a power play, so you have to submit to the ideology, and you can't question it, otherwise you're a racist. This is all the most evil shit, and Trump started rolling it back. And I'm not saying because he's a good guy, and I hate the way he went out. He went out the most cowardly way a human can go out, not pardoning Assange and Snowden, letting the deep state win that he so boldly would even identify and criticize. He totally let them off the hook. It's pathetic, but it's still better than what we would have had with Clinton, and I'm still grateful for his presidency. And so back to my initial point, the fact that, I don't know what my initial point with that was. I'm sorry for trailing off there. What I'm saying with these, when you see injustice in the world, my initial point, I'm sorry, is that if you're trying to effect change through political means, you can maybe hold back the tide a little bit, like Trump did, but you do more harm than good, because the backlash now by the establishment on him is so extreme, and he was only able to get to that position by being successful in another domain and then transitioning into politics and leveraging his fame to do that. No one else in politics does that. They maybe are a doctor or something, or a lawyer or something, and they can slowly get into it, but then they spend a few years climbing the way up the ranks and becoming a senator and eventually a vice president and then president next term or something like that. Trump had nothing to do with it until, boom, I'm going to run for president the minute I think I can win. That was his whole approach. And Kanye would do a lot more good than anyone could possibly do in politics, because they can actually do something quite radical, and that can be good. And while change can be painful and expensive and have unpredictable results, Kanye would be a great president to have over Joe Biden, absolutely, and I'm totally vote for him if I could. And there are so many that would mock me for that, but I'm not going to go into that. But nonetheless, when you feel there is injustice, if you go into politics, there's pretty much fuck all you're going to be able to do about it. Unless you're completely outside the political norms, in which case you can go in there and actually do some stuff for a bit, but then you will get so chewed up and spat out, like is what is happening to Trump, that I wouldn't advise you do it. And I think there is we finally have what we always needed, which is a technological solution to our problems, and that is Bitcoin. It takes away the ability of the government to print and manipulate money. And the minute you can do that, the government becomes completely flaccid and useless. And it's there for these Wall Street bet guys who are understandably incredulous at the establishment, who have told them, if you're going to buy stock that hurts someone that we care about, that is one of our friends, we are going to force you to sell that stock and forbid you from buying any more of it, and you're a racist. Like, if that's your fucking approach to it, that's annoying, because you were doing something. I don't think bankrupting a hedge fund is somehow fixing the world, by the way, but the power dynamics of it is what interests me, because you are playing by the capitalist rules. You're not doing anything outside the system. You're not engaged in market manipulation to anything like the extent that they are when they play these games, shorting stock into the ground. If you've got billions of dollars and you short a stock and you fuck up a company, that is market manipulation. And if you do it with insider trading given to you, insider information rather, that's given to you by all of your buddies that run stock exchanges and can figure out cash flows and have that all reported. Someone's pointed out that Robinhood is like everything else. If the service you're using is free, you're not the customer, you are the product. Robinhood is free. They don't charge anything to any of their users. What does that mean? That means their users are not the customers. That means their users are the product. If they're the product, who are the customers? I'll tell you who the customers are. They are the hedge fund they're trying to bankrupt, who have been sold all of the data on the customers of Robinhood, and they use that data to make decisions on what they're going to do in the market that gives them a heads up over all of the retail plebs. Every time these people never pay any penalty for all of these unscrupulous tactics they use that are fine, but as long as it's available to everyone. The problem is, if you can engage in market manipulation and insider trading and all of this stuff with complete impunity, and then Reddit, a bunch of plebs, decide to gang up on you and manipulate the market themselves collectively, and you cry foul, then I'm not having it. That's fucking bullshit. You're moving the goalpost. It annoys me so much that anyone would think... I'm not the one saying short selling itself is immoral, which a lot of people are doing. I'm not the one saying hedge funds are shit and rich people don't deserve to exist and eat the rich, and I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying you're playing by a set of rules. We decided to play by those rules too, and now you don't like it because you're losing the game. That's just babyish. I hate watching it. If you're losing the game with the rules that we are playing by the rules here, we're not coming to your hedge fund and kicking you in the face and attacking your family. No, we're playing by the rules. We're using the market. We're betting the opposite way to what you bet. We're manipulating the stock price up, and we know that we're going to squeeze you. And if we squeeze you, we know that will cause a cascading effect of the stock price rising. No one cares about the fundamentals of GameStop here. That's not what's the question. The question is, can you enter a system where other people are doing better than you, join in, participate in accordance with the rules, and have them respect the fact that you outplayed them? If you can't do that, which you obviously can't after today, you can't vote in an election and have the guy you chose be elected, because that's rigged. You can't participate in the stock market and effect change with your money, which is way more powerful, by the way, than any sort of political choices. You get to vote once every 4 years. You get to vote with your money every time you make a purchase. Way more powerful. I agree with Reagan and Thatcher on that. But they're saying you can't vote with your money either, because if you do something we don't like, we are going to prevent you from continuing to do that, and we are going to force you that we are going to people were in long trades, which is how you fuck over short traders, and which were, would have margin calls, or a bunch of people were forced out of those positions by Robinhood today. There's already a class action against them. They've sacrificed the Robinhood company to protect the Citadel Corporation, who were the ones on the hook for this short position. They've been brazen about it, and like I said, someone might go to jail. But the point is, if you wanna play people at their own game, and those people don't have the honor to respect when they lose every now and again, then fuck that game. Take the ball and go home. Find a game where the rules can't be changed on you arbitrarily, and you can participate in it without any sort of privilege. That's Bitcoin. That's what that is. You can buy Bitcoin, you can hold it, and you don't need to be an accredited investor, and you don't need to show any forms of ID or anything like that. You do to use the exchanges, of course, and that's why I'm telling people the exchanges are the weak point. And that's why the last place any fucking person should have any Bitcoin is on an exchange. And it's why my job is what it is. And my job is not telling people Bitcoin's awesome, or telling people the price is going to be up 8% in the next 3 days or whatever. That's not my job. My job is, here is a completely self-sovereign asset that you can hold. But here's how you hold it. You don't leave it on an exchange, and you don't leave it with third parties, ever. Because when they finally realize what Bitcoin is going to do to them, They're going to realize this is a game we can't rig. They are obviously going to... Robinhood let you buy Bitcoin. It didn't let you withdraw it. It just let you buy it and have it sitting on Robinhood. Look at what Robinhood did today. That just shows you what kind of mentality comes with that. If you accept Bitcoin purchases through companies like PayPal and Robinhood, who let you buy it but don't let you withdraw it and have it under your control, that's them saying, we will embrace this thing, but not to the extent that we suffer any disruption from it. And the whole point of Bitcoin is to disrupt these companies. So if you're not going to buy it and use it for the purpose that it was meant for, then you're wasting your time, and don't bother with it. And you're wasting my time too. My whole purpose is not just to get people interested in Bitcoin. It's to tell people that here's how you use Bitcoin. You have to fucking withdraw it and have it under your own control. Otherwise, you're still in their game, in their system. Exchanges are money services businesses. They have to comply with Know Your Customer, KYC shit. They have to comply with anti-money laundering, AML. They have to comply with all this shit, which is allegedly to prevent terrorism and tax fraud and all that bullshit, but it's really just another system of control. And it's another regulatory moat built around these platforms that mean I can't buy and sell Bitcoin. I can't go to my clients and say, sure, I can sell you some. I'm not allowed to do that stuff because I'm not licensed. And licensing is just a way of the government getting their fingers in, well, a way of getting a noose around your neck, or a leash at least. You have to take it a bit. To get some Bitcoin, you're going to have to use one of these exchanges, but you don't leave your coins sitting on there. And this isn't the reason I tell people. When I tell people not to leave Bitcoins on exchanges, I give them a reason that I know in my heart isn't really what the actual reason is. I tell people the world's biggest Bitcoin exchange, Mt. Gox, collapsed with over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. And then, because I mostly deal with Canadians, I say Canada's biggest Bitcoin exchange, Quadriga CX, collapsed with over $1 billion. These exchanges are not reliable places to leave your money. Don't leave your Bitcoins there. They're not safe. In reality, I deal with some old people that have money and they want to invest in Bitcoin, and I'm watching them use computers in ways that frighten me. I watch them use the same password for everything. I watch them use free mail for everything. I watch them have loads of malware and toolbars dropping down from their Chrome browser on their Microsoft Windows laptop that isn't running right, and I know is riddled with viruses. I know they don't know what they're doing with their tech, but I could rationally think, you know what? Exchanges have moved on. They are not Mt. Gox. They're not Quadriga anymore. If you left some Bitcoins on ShakePay, you're probably going to be all right. But I tell people these horror stories because no one is really quite ready to accept the fact that at the drop of a hat, the Canadian government can turn around and say, okay, we're not making Bitcoin illegal, but you can't have self-custody of it anymore because terrorism and child porn and white supremacy and racism, that's going to be their fucking reasons, of course, but they're going to, at the drop of a hat, they can say to ShakePay, yeah, you can still exist, people can still buy Bitcoin, they just can't withdraw it anymore. And at that point, Bitcoin is neutered. If everyone had their Bitcoin in that state, Bitcoin becomes a useless fucking technology. Completely useless. We're already way past the threshold where that's not the case because there's way too many people that have their Bitcoin in self-custody. So we'll be all right. But my point, when I tell you, if you leave Bitcoins on an exchange, the exchange will collapse. I'm being disingenuous when I say that. What I really mean is, one day you're going to be very, very shocked that the government is going to outlaw it, and suddenly you realize, oh, my Bitcoins were never under my control. And that's the point. You can't set up your own brokerage and you can't withdraw your GameStop stock to that yourself and trade it independently of these stock exchanges. So that means when the New York Stock Exchange or Robinhood freeze trading on an asset, on a stock, they can do that, and then you're stuck. With Bitcoin, you have this escape. And my point is that I want to absolutely hammer home from this video to all these Wall Street bets guys, to all these populists who are a bit pissed off that the guy they just voted in is now being banned from, to everyone that wants an exit, to everyone that is trying to beat them at their own game, or to people that are looking at how to escape the game, There is a giant glowing orange flashing exit sign everywhere around you called Bitcoin. That's how you get out. Buy it. Get what you can before everyone else does. It's not a panic, but do it right. Because if you're not controlling the Bitcoins, and if you don't have them in your own self-custody, you're doing exactly the same thing as you're doing when you're buying stocks that ruin short sellers that you don't like. You have to buy this thing and you have to get it under your control, and then you're outside. Once your Bitcoin's on your wallet, you're outside their system. And it doesn't matter if they shut down the exchanges. You're already on the other. The exchange is an airport. That's how I'll always describe it. You can fly to the beautiful land of the free, wherever that may be. You can fly to the moon if you want. Wherever there's a free society and they're not forcing you to wear masks or take vaccines or or pay millions of dollars in tax for no reasons and inflate, whatever it is. There's a land of the free, but you live in Canada or you live in the UK and you're under tier 1 million lockdown at this point. If you want to get to that beautiful land of the free, you're going to have to go to an airport and you're going to need government-issued ID to be able to get in and on a plane, and that's going to be a passport, and it's going to suck, and you're going to have to comply with all this bullshit. You're going to have to be told you've got to throw away your toothpaste tube because it's 125 milliliters. You're going to have to do all this bullshit. But once you land in that country, there's nothing they can fucking do to you anymore because you're in the land of the free. And if you choose to fly back there, okay, that's your problem, but or you might need to, but I'm saying the road to getting into Bitcoin is the worst treacherous road because you have to deal with exchanges, and exchanges are where the government exerts all its power over you because you're not in Bitcoin yet, and you have to use one of these fucking services to get it. Once you've got the Bitcoin and once you withdraw it, then you're on the outside and you're in that land of the free, and you can remain there for as long as you want. And it's a beautiful place, and the water's warm, and it's the only real option, and it's humanity's last saving grace. It's a gift from God, and I cannot tell you how wonderful it is. And it's better than any watching the price run up. Yay, it's worth 10,000, 20,000. I'm telling you, that's not why we do it, and it shouldn't be why you do it either. The reason people are buying GameStop right now is not because they want to make a bunch of money on a stock. No one believes in GameStop, okay? No one believes that this dying industry is like they did it to Blockbuster. Blockbuster's stock surged too because obviously all these vultures are shorting it to death because it's a dying company, and they don't care about people losing jobs and all that stuff. But I'm not moralizing about short selling or being a hedge fund or any of that stuff. I'm just saying people like fucking them over because they kind of deserve it, and they do. And as a result, they don't care if they buy $100 worth of stock in a dying company and it goes to zero. That's not what's on their mind. What's on their mind is this is a stock that they can't buy to cover their short. So hilarious. They're fucked. Anyway, I think I've made my point, and I think I hope some people. I'm not sure anyone will listen to this, but as usual, I hope someone learned something from it. And thanks so much for listening if you've managed to make it through this ridiculous video. But we live in ridiculous times. I've never seen anything quite like what I'm seeing right now. And this 10-year period is just, I don't know what to expect, really. And if you have any ideas about how to position yourself within the tide of change and disruption and violence that's coming our way, the only one I know is buy Bitcoin. That will save you in a lot of ways, but not every way. If you have any ideas, let me know, because I'm kind of stumped, and I'm also very disillusioned. But yeah, thanks for watching, and please get in touch if you have anything to send my way. Any thoughts are welcome. And yeah, I'll speak to you in another video.